Hello, my name is Josh King and I'll be your tour guide today on It's Greek to Me. Today we're going to talk about Greek music. But before we do that, let's talk about some things the Greeks are famous for.
Greek yogurt, hummus, and the ever-popular fraternity toga.
Before we continue, I only see it fitting for me to don the appropriate attire. So here we go. Alright, here we go. First I'd like to talk about some instruments. One of the more popular instruments was the lyre, seen here constructed out of turtle shell as well as antler. And they've actually found remnants of this instrument in the graves of some Cretans, but we'll get to them later. Probably the oldest surviving Greek musical instruments are the aioli, which actually were originally made in bone and date back to the Neolithic age, which is 7th to 4th millennium BC, and were actually found in around Western Macedonia. The one you see before you is depicted in wood and actually has a double reed that both reeds are played at the same time and produces a very flute/oboe effect. For the ancient Greeks, music was viewed as quite literally a gift from the gods. The invention of specific instruments is attributed to particular deities: Hermes, the lyre; Pan, the syrinx or the panpipes; and Athena, the aulos or flute. In Greek mythology, the Muses actually personified the various elements of music, in the wide Greek sense of the term, and were said to entertain the gods on Mount Olympus with their divine music, dancing, and singing. Other mythical figures strongly associated with music are the god of wine, Dionysus, and his followers, the satyrs and the maenads. Music education was a very important part of Greek civilization. As a matter of fact, let's talk about that next. Some of the first schools dedicated to musical education were actually created by the Cretans. However, in the heyday of music in the classroom was during the 6th and 5th centuries BCE, when schools of music were established in Athens, where pupils between the ages of 13 and 16 were taught to play the lyre and to sing, accompanied by their teacher on the aulos. They believed that music taught discipline and order and allowed the educated to better appreciate musical performance. Athletics and other sporting events, another major element of the Greek education, were also done accompanied to music, particularly in order to increase synchronization. Can you imagine if that is how football were put together? The great philosopher Plato was probably the biggest proponent of pushing music education during that time. One might say he's hard-headed. Never mind. Anyway, Plato believed in the Republic, which was a utopian society based on moral education, which included music.
Well, one could say he has a stone-cold stare. No? Oh, okay.
One of the original fathers of music theory was actually Pythagoras. However, during this time, Aristoxenus, who was a philosopher, argued that musical intervals should be classified by their effects on listeners, as opposed to merely examining their mathematical ratios. Aristoxenus is known in antiquity as O Musikos, otherwise known as the musician. He sought to separate the study of music from that of both physics and mathematics. He refused to make use of any ratios in his treatise, distinctly contra to the Pythagoreans. And he also spoke of the raising and lowering of pitch in terms of tension and relaxation, which in his day would admit of no exact numerical measurement, rather than in terms of string length, from which ratios could be calculated. In his book, The Elements of Harmony, he attempted to complete a systematic exposition of music. There are many books. The first book contains the explanation of the genera of Greek music and also of their species. This is followed by some general definitions of terms, particularly those of sound interval system. Second book, he divides music into 7 parts, which he takes to be the genera, intervals, sounds, systems, tones or modes, mutations, and melopoeia. The remainder of his work is taken up with discussion of the many parts of music according to the order in which he himself had prescribed. With all of this emphasis put on music education back in the Greek times, it does tend to beg the question, what happened? Why don't we today look at music as one of the major proponents of educating our youth? And a lot of times it's thrown by the wayside because of budget cuts and for other reasons. So, if it's good enough for the Greeks, who created a civilization based on scientific and language advancement, using music as a form not only by itself, but to coexist with everything else, including athletic events, Why not today? Why not now? Tell you one thing, it's Greek to me.